Hello, welcome back. We are once again here with a video on Macbeth, and in this video we will study the fourth act of Macbeth. Let us begin the first scene of the fourth act. Macbeth returns to the Weird Sisters and boldly demands to be shown a series of apparitions that will tell his future. The first apparition is the disembodied head of a warrior who seems to warn Macbeth of a bloody revenge at the hands of Macduff. The second is a blood-covered child who comforts Macbeth with the news that he cannot be killed by any man of woman born. The third is a child wearing a crown who promises that Macbeth cannot lose in the battle until Birnam Wood physically moves towards his stronghold at Dunsane. Encouraged by the news of such impossibilities, Macbeth asks, "Shall Banquo's issue ever reign in the kingdom?" The witches present an image of a ghostly procession of kings, future kings, led by Banquo. All this serves only to enrage Macbeth, who, trusting in his own pride, reveals in an aside to the audience his determination to slaughter the family of Macduff. This scene can be roughly divided into three: the witches' casting of a spell, the supernatural answers to Macbeth's demands, and Macbeth's return to the cold world of political and social reality. The scene's structure deliberately recalls the opening scenes of the play. Once more, Macbeth's destiny is in question. Once more, he receives three prophecies. Once more, he is left on his own to decide how best to interpret those prophecies. And once more, he fails to understand that fate is inevitable however he chooses to act. The witch's charm is fantastic. Its ingredients thrown into a bubble cauldron are all poisonous. Moreover, these ingredients are all the entrails of body parts of loathed animals or human beings, which taken together can be interpreted as making a complete monster. Tongue, leg, liver, lips, scales, teeth, and so on. The strong implication is that Macbeth himself is no longer a complete human being. He himself has become a half man, half monster, a kind of chimera. The second scene of the fourth act. In Macduff's castle in Fife, Lady Macduff comforts and is comforted by her young son, who displays a courage beyond his years when confronted with the possibility that his father has turned traitor. Although warned by the Thane of Ross to escape before it is too late, Lady Macduff is encountered by Macbeth's henchmen, who brutally kill first her child and, as the audience learns in the following scene, her. In this way, Macbeth kills Lady Macduff and her child. This scene and the next should be considered together, for both deal with the question of treachery and loyalty, and both consider the nature of genuine courage as opposed to the arrogant bravado of Macbeth. Here is a woman apparently abandoned by her husband. She has been left to fend for her children like a mother bird in the nest. Even the tiny wren would show more spirited defense for her own family against a predator than Macduff has done. She argues her conclusion can be only that her husband wants the natural touch, that is, he lacks human kindness. It's interesting to hear in this phrase an ironic echo of the words of Lady Macbeth, who accused her husband of having precisely too much of the milk of human kindness. The third scene of the fourth act. In England, Duncan's son Malcolm tests the loyalty of his newest recruit Macduff. By demeaning his own nobility and professing himself to be a greater tyrant than Macbeth, Malcolm hopes to goad Macduff into an open display of his loyalties. This attempt at reverse psychology has its desired effect. Macduff is thrown into a fit of anger against the untitled tyrant Macbeth, and Malcolm enlists his help in the struggle. When Ross appears with the news of the slaughter of Macduff's family, Macduff is finally convinced not only to engage in the rebel army but also to take personal revenge upon Macbeth. This scene also includes a passage in which it is reported that England's King Edward the Confessor has provided more than political aid to Malcolm. He has been healing the sick by supernatural means. This scene develops further the important issues of loyalty and courage found in the preceding scene, and it is structured into two halves. The first concerns the testing of Macduff's loyalty by Malcolm. The second evokes the great passion of Macduff in the face of terrible grief and his sworn revenge on Macbeth. It is helpful to think that this scene as a job interview. Malcolm begins by suggesting that Macduff may be prepared to betray him as a sacrifice to his previous leader Macbeth. Macduff passes this stage of the interview by boldly announcing, "I am not treacherous." Still, Malcolm persists. Men may look as bright as angels on the outside but still harbor secret feelings within. Malcolm's next move is a daring piece of reverse psychology. He claims that as a future king, he himself will be even more malicious and barbarous than Macbeth. To understand this scene, the audience must be aware that Malcolm is lying when he suggests that he possesses no virtues, no nobility, no honor, and no qualities of kingship.